I'm certainly in the camp that feels like patches after the release of a game have become far too heavily relied upon. Developers will kick anything out the door now, but hopefully through our reviews and these videos, you at least can make some kind of informed decision. Now today we will be revisiting some of the biggest stinkers, including Skyforge, which almost made me weep and had me thinking I'd accidentally slipped and fallen into a tub of Vaseline on my eyes, that is. Apex Legends, King's Bounty 2 with the slowest horses I've ever seen in a game, the online shooter CRSED, which was another that had a nice dollop of Vaseline applied to everything but had potential, and then a small trip in a large truck with the latest version of Snowrunner. Have the games been all patched up? Well, let's find out. Keen to create some form of suspense, I'm going to leave Skyforge until the end. And we'll start with one that's just a small snippet really, and that's Snowrunner. Now, when Snowrunner originally released, performance was quite good. Frame rates were fine, they generally stuck to 30 FPS and it was smooth enough. What suffered the most was the visual quality. This was still decent, but I was hoping a few patches down the line we'd see an improvement, and that's definitely the case. Shadow resolution seems to have improved, the overall quality of the image in terms of resolution has improved, the frame pacing, so the rate at which the frames are delivered to the player, seems more consistent than it did before, resulting in a smoother experience. I can't be 100% sure, but it looks like they may have put back in a few effects. I noticed a few ambient environmental elements like insects buzzing around, and the lighting quality as well as draw distance may have been a touch improved. Overall it was good before, but it's even better now. So first one down, it's a good job and a game that really I highly recommend. If you've not played Snowrunner, picture a super peaceful GTA, but rather than guns and robbing banks, you'll be lifting logs and joining your mates online to pull people out of mud. Alright, look, it doesn't sound good. Check out the review, it's awesome. You will still notice pop-in, and certainly it doesn't hit native resolution all the time, but overall, a good start. Then we go to Apex Legends. Now, this was an interesting one. I've actually revisited it a couple of times. At launch, it was okay, not great. The frame rate was a messy affair, and the visual quality was equally poor on the Switch version. There were also a number of audio artifacts, which caused audio stuttering, and the voice over net was a joke. Now onto version 1.0.2.0, and Apex Legends has seen not only a load of updates, but also an incredible amount of content added to it, including new game modes. And while I'll show a bit of that new game mode in here, the real thing we want to look at is the performance. Now, firstly, frame rates. Although they were okay, there were some real fluctuations. It's definitely improved. It seems to hold 30 or higher almost all of the time, which is a big improvement, but I noticed they seem to have improved input latency as well. I'm one of the seemingly few people that enjoys gyro controls, and those frame rate improvements have made that much easier. There's a step up in visual quality as well. While it's still not native resolution and seems to dynamically scale, while dropping into a level it looks just as bad as it ever did, but once in game, textures, draw distance and image quality are certainly improved. It's a nice thing to see. Honestly, I thought they'd reached the peak, but they must still be working on things behind the scenes. It's by no means perfect, but it's definitely an improvement. Plus, I didn't have any of that audio stuttering, which was causing me so much issues in the last playthrough. I'd finally be happy to recommend Switch players to actually go back and give it another go. And that new game mode was actually really fun. Next up, we've got the RPG King's Bounty. Now, King's Bounty combines a mixture of standard RPG mechanics, including questing, exploring an open world with air quotes around it because it's not very open, and riding the world's slowest horse. At launch, performance was mediocre at best. The first areas were 30 FPS, and then anywhere outside of that, it was stuttery and would drop down. Now, strangely here, last week I tested a new patch which seemed to have improved performance quite a bit. However, today it updated again, so I tried this newest version, and in all honesty, I think it's gotten worse. As you can see, the frame rates are struggling around about 22, 23, up and down, all the way to 30 and everywhere in between. I know for a fact the developers are working hard to bring it up, and I think I was told that they were working on increasing the speed of the horse as well as the run speed, as those were two of the big criticisms I leveled at the game in terms of its movement. And well, we'll have to put them side by side and see if that speed's better, but it's still ridiculously slow. And while there's no run button button on either of them. I don't know. Now, as far as improvements on image quality go, I do think there have been some. Unfortunately, there's so much wrong with the visual in terms of things like shadow quality being excessively low, the draw distance on shadows also being ridiculously close, as in 2 or 3 meters from the player, and a vast amount of scenery popping. It doesn't make for a pretty picture. Character models are weak. The animations, although a couple have been sped up, just look poor, and I think they've got quite a bit of work to do. But fair play to them, they've at least done 2 or 3 patches so far, and they're going in the right direction. It's just not quite there yet, if you ask me. Then we've got Cursed, FOAD. I've forgotten what that stands for. Let me know in the comments. It's something ridiculous. But this was essentially a battle royale that poked fun at every battle royale out there. And upon first inspection, well, performance was okay, but the visual quality wasn't great at all. A bit of a blurry mess. Now, someone posted to me on Twitter saying, hey, you should really cover this. They've done so much work with it. And I always like to see that, so I dived into it. And yes, the visual quality is massively improved. Like, massively. It looks almost native resolution at times. The lighting's been improved, the draw distance is so much better with you being able to spot distant players. The frame rates are more solid and consistent, and to everyone else in this list video, this is how it should be done. This went from a potentially good online PUBG clone to a really, really good online PUBG clone that actually does quite a few things better. There's jetpacks in here, old bolt action rifles, and of course it includes gyroscopic controls, as does Apex, and they work nicely. One thing that particularly caught my eye here was how good the shadow quality is. For me, I'd say this is probably as good as they can get it on the Nintendo Switch, and if you're considering jumping into this one online, I would now definitely give it my recommendation. It's a lot of fun. Perhaps jump on our Discord and see if anyone else is playing it. Links to that will be in the description. It's totally free to come and join our SwitchUp Discord, which incidentally I think has got about 2,000 people on it now. Crazy times. Last but not least then, and we have Skyforge. Now this was a hot mess when it launched. It was complete garbage. Textures were streaming in constantly. The performance was all over the shop. There were numerous glitches in terms of character movement. The audio was out of sync, and it had the worst audio bug I've ever experienced. It was like my speakers were almost exploding trying to play this. Now, as you'd expect with one of these online games, there are people that play it regardless because it's free to play, so there's money being pumped into it as well by people buying outfits and whatnot, so they've got the money to actually patch things up. But have they achieved it? Well, kind of. The audio issues are definitely better than they were. Audio syncing's improved. The animations are as janky as they ever were, and the ladies' faces are just ever so slightly creepy, but to their credit, load times are improved. They've definitely dropped the resolution to increase the performance, but it's not terrible. That performance though is so much smoother. The frames are up over 30 almost all the time, although I do wish they'd have just locked it out. And the input latency has improved as well. I didn't have any random jankiness. There's a few strange moments like trying to open doors on cages and a weird animation plays and it doesn't open and then you have to do it twice. But overall that combat is much better than it was. Image quality and pop-in are still an issue here. It's never going to be an oil painting unless you spill oil all over your painting. But through gritted teeth, I must say that Skyforge is now playable. Am I going to play it? No, because it's not my cup of tea. But if this is your cup of tea, then drink it, because it's no longer lukewarm. It's now like mildly hot. With tea analogies out the way, that is the end of our all patched up episode. Please let me know in the comments any games that you would like to see revisited. Would you like to see us review the Nintendo 64 online component? I know there's been quite a lot of talk about the performance not being up to snuff on the emulators that are the official Nintendo ones, which, wow, doesn't sound great. And just a big thanks to all of you who seem to enjoy our content. With that said, thanks to our patrons, we did hit 100, so someone was listening in the sales video and said, yes, we will help you out. So thanks to our 100 patrons. If you want to join them, all the links are down below. Remember, until the end of October, on our website, SwitchUp.gg, using code SwitchUp5, you can get 5% off any online eShop cards if you're in the EU. With that said, I'm going to go and have a sleepover in my office with my kid. We're going to eat loads of sweets, watch loads of films, and then end up exhausted tomorrow. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch Up. Cheers, guys. See ya!